And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience, friends. Today we're going to talk about the term or the syndrome called imposter syndrome. And you may be saying, Justin, really? 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 I mean, look, dude, I'm a successful business owner. I get it. But here's the reality. Imposter syndrome is something that most of us face at some point in life. So I want to deal with this. And I'll give you a backstory, but before we go to the backstory, what exactly is imposter syndrome? There's no doubt at some point in the past that you've felt inadequate or like a fraud to the success that you've experienced. And that ultimately is what imposter syndrome is. The feeling of inadequacy or the feeling of fraud, that you're a fraudulent individual because of some success, that you really aren't as capable, as intelligent as as others see that you are. Or you believe that your success came from good luck or hard work or because you're smart or because you're well prepared. If you really think about it, it's quite silly. It's really silly. See, imposter syndrome was originally referred to as the imposter phenomenon, and it was discovered by the psychologists Pauline Clance and Susan Imes. And we're going to talk about Pauline and Susan in a little bit on some of the quotes that they actually stated, but it was discovered way back in 1978, a little bit before I was born. What was interesting is at that time, Pauline and Susan, both females, theorized that only women dealt with imposter syndrome and that men didn't experience this. I've been around enough guys in locker rooms to realize that there is heavy imposter syndrome. And now at some 40 some odd years later, they now recognize that both men and women deal with imposter syndrome. Why am I going here today? Here's a belief that I have, and I've shared this with you in the past, friends. I believe that the best business is one where multiple people pull the line together, almost like tug of war. I've given you the analogy of people lining up on the football line, facing the end zone. They're all at the line where the ball is, and they're saying, okay, we know the exact play we're going to take, and we know how we're going to score. And I believe the best companies are the ones where the team members all are working at their peak performance, their peak capabilities to achieve the goal, whatever the goal is. Well, in order to achieve that, have the best company out there, you have to have key players who understand the vision, the play, and understand the capabilities of all the team. You may have a captain, you may have specific positions in the company. Ultimately, you have key players. In our company, I have personally hand-selected a group of people, team members, if you will, that have the character and the personal values that I aspire to have. Yeah, you heard me right. I see things in people that I envy almost to a certain point. Envy is not a good thing, I guess. Maybe it's an aspire to have, but I see things. I see characteristics. In every one of our team members, I see something that's like, wow, I wish I could do that. But I built this team with varying types of skill sets. More importantly, I built it with varying personalities. You see, many small businesses will go out and hire people that have the exact same personality as the founder. And candidly, it doesn't build a team that's going to win. Imagine if you had a football team and everybody was a quarterback. You didn't have the line, the offensive line there to protect the quarterback, to put him in the pocket. You didn't have a dynamic running back. You certainly didn't have a wideout. Yeah, you're not going to be able to play as efficiently against a very diverse defense. The same should be true in a business. You have to have a dynamic team. And I'm got to tell you, I'm blessed and honored to work with an amazing rock star team. It's humbling, seriously, every single day. In my own personal prayer life, I have each of these individuals and what their struggles are, what they're going through, their aspirations, the things that I've heard them say they want to accomplish. I pray for these individuals every single day in my quiet time. Lord, just give them strength, give them wisdom. Help me be the person in their life to help them reach what you have for them, what they see in their own life. Do you have any kids? Perhaps you do. I know we have 3 beautiful kids. They're fun to hang out with. My daughter has been driving. We've been shooting some videos as she's driving. It's kind of fun watching her behind the steering wheel, taking on this new chapter in life. It's nerve-wracking at the same time. By the way, we're going to be releasing a video where I'm comparing driving with a teenager to letting go of a business and how similar they are in terms of the founder entrepreneur mindset. But maybe you go back in your mind's eye when your kids were young and they would ask the question, why? You ever heard the why question, right? It's, oh, why, Daddy? Why do birds have wings? I don't know, because God gave them to them. And you go through all these questions of why, and you can look back and it's like, wow. Sometimes you could actually answer the question with, because I said so. Why, Daddy? Why can't I do this? Because I said so. And it works. That question works whenever you have young kids, but it certainly doesn't work with adults. But yet so many times we business owners want to say, because I said so, to team members or clients or vendors or whatever, but you better not, because you won't have a business left. I mentioned Dr. Pauline Clance and her study along with Dr. Suzanne Imes, who discovered this first identification of imposter syndrome. Originally, it was called imposter phenomenon. Here's what Dr. Clance said, word for word, and I quote, "I experienced imposter phenomenon feelings in graduate school. I would take an important examination and be very afraid that I had failed. I remember all that I did not know rather than what I did. My friends began to be sick of my worrying, so I kept all my doubts to myself. I thought my fears were due to my educational background. When I began to teach," okay, so she's moved from a student to a teacher. "When I began to teach at a prominent liberal arts college with an excellent academic reputation, I heard similar fears from students who had come for counseling. They had excellent standardized test score grades and recommendations. One of them said, 'I feel like an imposter here with all these really bright people.' In discussing these students, Dr. Suzanne Imes and I coined the term imposter phenomenon and wrote a paper on the concept. There's no doubt in my life that I've faced imposter phenomenon several times. And I'd bet, candidly, if you're truthful with yourself, that you yourself have experienced that. Maybe you're experiencing it now. You see, when we're questioned about our decisions, our vision, our directions as business owners, many times the real answer is, my intuition tells me this is the right way. My experience is speaking to me that we should go in this way. Or, you know what? My gut just tells me something's wrong. And that's the truth. And you're like shaking your head now because you as a founder, you as a business owner knows that there's certain times that you cannot identify the why. Unfortunately, if you answer it, well, my gut tells me, it doesn't work well with managers, with employees, with executives, with shareholders, does it? I mean, that's like saying, because I said so. But yet we as entrepreneurs know that oftentimes we cannot pinpoint the exact reason for the decision or the turn or the adjustment. And we're often left feeling incapable, unqualified, inexperienced. Yes, we often left feeling as imposters. Let me ask you, does your track record show that you're competent, well-liked, and successful, yet you believe it's just a coincidence? Or maybe you look now and people place you on a pedestal for whatever position, career you're in, but yet you know that you just worked hard. You've made some right decisions in your career. Do you feel like a fraud? Like if they only knew? Here's an interesting study done by Kajabi, Kajabi. And we'll have some links to this study that was done by Kajabi. It's the first of its kind on the area of imposter syndromes on entrepreneurs and the small business owner. It was so dynamic that Kajabi set out to have releasing a new process that says, get out of your own way campaign, trying to prevent entrepreneurs from causing self-destruction. In this study, they surveyed over 600 small business owners. They were polled. And here are the top 4 key findings. 84% of entrepreneurs and small business owners experience imposter syndrome regularly. 84%. So friends, I know the number of listeners who listen to this podcast. Tens of thousands of people listen to this particular episode. 84% of us business owners, experience imposter syndrome. Here's what's interesting. Second big point in this finding. A greater percentage of males experience intense feelings of imposter syndrome compared to women. So go back to the original study that came out in 1978. It said that no, only women experience this. Man, was that wrong? The newest study says that male business owners, male entrepreneurs experience an intense feeling of imposter syndrome in relation to women. Many of us worry about being found out for the lack of knowledge or ability. That's the third big point. We're worried about it. And a good portion of us business owners feels that our success, however you define success, is just due to luck, the right place at the right time. In this study, Orlando Beza, which is spelled B-A-E-Z-A, Orlando is what I'm going to call him, CMO at Kajabi quoted and said, and I quote, imposter syndrome can be such a heavy subject and barrier to success for many people. And since it's perceived as taboo by many, people dealing with imposter syndrome simply don't feel comfortable talking about their struggles with it. The biggest downside is feeling isolated, as though you don't have the community to turn to or the resources on how to move past it. That was the direct quote from the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Kajabi, who did the research. See, entrepreneurs are taking huge risk every single day. We take risk, unmeasurable risk by many employees. In fact, I would dare say the reason why we have employees is because they didn't want to take the risk of being a business owner. Some people just can't handle it. Entrepreneurs, everyday business owners take amazing, large, huge, astronomically large risk in the name of pursuing our dreams. We have these visions. We have these grandiose ideas. Yeah, people often look at it and say, it's all about money. You know, I've yet to meet a business owner who says they do it for the money. In fact, I was having coffee not too long ago with a business owner in the morning at a Cracker Barrel eating God's food, grits, eggs, bacon. I mean, let me tell you, it was great. And he looked at me and he said, you don't do it for the money. You do it because you love it. He said, I don't do this for the money. I do it because I love it. So there's 5 types of imposters that have been identified through the study. The first one is the soloist. In other words, you don't want to ask for help. You'd rather do all the work yourself as opposed to seek support from a manager or somebody else, a soloist. You normally discredit your own abilities, and so you work so hard to show other people you can handle it. The soloist. The perfectionist is number 2. You're the only one who can get the job done right. You hold yourself at the highest possible standards, and you've experienced shame whenever you miss your own mark. You have to overcome the fear of failure. That's the perfectionist. The expert, and this is probably me. You're constantly thinking about what or how much you know, and you feel like a failure when someone asks you a question that you don't know. Remember, I'm saying this to myself, it's okay to not know everything. It's okay. That's the expert. Or maybe it's the natural genius. Maybe some people would say, no, Justin, this is you. I know several of our team members listen to the podcast and they may say, Justin, I think you're more the natural genius. Okay. I don't know how to self-diagnose who I am, but the natural genius, basically, they base their success on the quick and effortless skill sets of accomplishing something. And they feel shame because it didn't come as easy to others. In other words, when you don't meet your own high standard of expectation, you feel let down. That's the natural genius. You know that you can accomplish something faster than anybody else. And then you see somebody else who does it faster than you. And it's like, man, I didn't meet my own expectations. If you find yourself in that, and candidly, most of us would agree. I mean, the study says that 86% of us say that we have faced imposter syndrome. 84% of us said that we faced imposter syndrome at some point in our career. So how do we overcome it? How do we overcome it? And I got to tell you, friend, this podcast came from that simple statement. People can see past the fluff. How do you overcome it? How do you get past this idea that, man, you're an imposter? No one trusts you. the little devil in your shoulder who's whispering those lies in your ear, the first thing you do is you've got to be honest with yourself. I can remember my mom saying many times, son, you never should lie, but most of all, never lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Fyodor Dostoevsky made this statement, and I thought it was powerful. Above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lies comes to a point that he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others. And having no respect, he ceases to love. Philip Dick said, reality denied comes back to haunt. Don't lie to yourself, friends. Find somebody. Find a family member, a friend, a colleague, a manager within your business. Maybe you're an employee. Find a board of executives. Find a group of business owners. Find a pastor. Find somebody that you can connect with one-on-one. That you can be true and authentic. I only have a handful of those people in my life. And the older I get, the fewer they become. Imagine that. Find that individual that you can be true and authentic with. Number 2, do a SWOT analysis on yourself. I've never even thought about this. As I was reading the casework behind this particular psychological syndrome, I was like, man, I've never done a SWOT analysis for myself. So we know what SWOT is: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So maybe you ask the question, hey, what is your strength? What is it that you're a rock star at? Where's your weaknesses? Where is it that people criticize you on a regular basis? Man, I can give you a ton of them. Yeah, I often get more criticism than I do attaboys. And I think you would say the same thing as business owners. Very few attaboys, lots of criticism.